Hello, hello. I think we live. All right. I think we are live. So, today, hello, hello. It is going to be a examination of foolish things out there in the tech world. We're going to touch on a few little things, some very high wattage things, and we're gonna discuss this stuff, and hopefully some of you will tag along and have your own input, because I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do a 10 most foolish things for April Fool's 2022, and I don't know, I get the feeling like there's just too much to cover, but at the same time, I didn't plan whatsoever, so I've only got 3 things on my list thus far. So we'll go through them, and we'll see what they are. So I am going to start off with what's in the cup tonight, which is some beer. It's a nice beer. Pretty delicious. It's from a local brewery, Newark Lager. It's their Dunkel, which is a dark wheat beer, I do believe, yes. And 5% alcohol from Niagara-on-the-Lake. So nice local Ontario beer, and a delicious one at that. Pretty good. Not quite as heavy as a lot of the German Dunkels I've had, but still has a nice sweet, roasty, malty flavor. Very hops light, and it's a pretty good brew. Unless, of course, you're gluten intolerant, because it's made with wheat, and it will kill you. So anyways, shall we get on with the list? I believe we'll start off with something simple. Over here we have the people who thought future-proofing their PC build with a 850 watt power supply. Sorry guys, it's not going to be enough. If we look at how if the 3090 Ti is any indication of the future, as well as the most recent NVIDIA presentation, where I believe Hopper GPUs have a power limit of around 700 watts versus the Ampere ones, which had around 200 to 300, so like double. Probably going to be some seriously power hungry GPUs coming from NVIDIA this year. So take it as you will, but if you bought an 850 watt power supply and you're planning on getting a next gen GPU, you might be a little disappointed. Let's just put it that way. It might not be quite what you were hoping for, and it might not be enough to handle these new generation ones, and especially if you bought it with the expectation of holding on to it for a long while. Yeah, it made sense, because GPUs tend to go, you would think, down in power for performance, but maybe, who knows, maybe the 4060 will be fine on a 850 watt power supply, but I wouldn't count on it. So, number 10, people who future-proofed with an 850 watt PSU. Not the most foolish thing, but a little bit foolish. All right, we're going to move on to the next one now, which is the Evga E-Leash. the E-Leash in of itself is not horribly foolish, but the funniest thing to me about the E-Leash is this baby right here. Patent pending. Where it's like a cable to hold your GPU up. Yes, we're patenting that. And because it's such a good idea. It's like, all right, granted, you know, the GPU stands, I had one sitting around. They're kind of clunky, and they're really bulky. The GPU stands like something that you get with you know, some of the bigger cards. Some of them came with an actual like stand that you could put in your case to hold it up. It's maybe better in some ways, but I'll tell you one thing. On my Thermaltake P3 case, it is a useless piece of equipment. And the funny thing is that, what is it? I might rank on the foolish list for this, but I watched Jay's 2 cents, his quick review on the 3090 Ti, the FDW3, which is the one that's pictured here, and he's talking about how you don't even need it really, because they made the card actually so nice and solid around the display outputs. The shield there is super strong, super reinforced, and it's kind of a pointless thing right now with these new 3090 Ti's, which weigh a bajillion pounds. And yeah, it seems really foolish that it's a thing. I wonder if you can buy it. Can you buy the E-Leash accessories maybe here? No E-Leash here. So maybe go here and do E-Leash. Maybe just leash. Yeah, there's no actual price on it. It would be funny to see if it's like a $30-$40 thing for basically a little clip and a pulley. So it seems really dumb. So it is a lot more, I will say that it is a lot more subdued. So yeah, okay, yeah. So here, yeah, you've got a little pulley here for this cable, and you're using a similar mechanism to your swimming goggles for tightening it. So I don't really see that as being something worthy of a patent, to be honest. There's nothing really that new. And you have these little screws to tighten against the cable. So I don't know. It seems like a really dumb thing to patent. And again, the use case for it is kind of limited. Let's just put it that way. So I'm going to say that is number 9 for foolish things. And our next step actually is going to be kind of a reference more so for Canadian viewers, but people who bought a 3090 for like $2,600. All right, and this is probably the pinnacle of dumbness, and I say this as somebody who did pay $2,600 for a 3090. Thankfully not a Zotac. All right, maybe we'll have Zotac purchasers in like a higher tier later on, but we'll just leave it at that, where, you know, if you paid more than $2,600 for a 3090, you're probably feeling pretty dumb right about now, especially since EVGA has a 3090 Ti for $2,000. US, which when you transfer to Canadian is $2,500. So you pay $100 extra for a 3090, which is lesser of a GPU by, say, what, 7 to 10% in gaming. Also has butt ugly power connectors. I have to say the new power connector on the 3090 Ti's is pretty awesome looking. And not only that, but you can add to cart. Like, you can actually put this in your cart and check out. And it's not like, you know, it's a paper launch in the sense that you can't get it. You know, but the fact that these things here are in, you know, you've got your 3090s and yeah, $2,500. Is anybody going to really pay $2,500 for a 3090 now when you can get a 3090 Ti for $2,500? Now, obviously, you get it from EVGA, and if you're in Canada, there's there's a plethora of import fees and shipping charges. So you're probably going to get, I would assume, like another $150 if you're looking at shipping and import fees and then conversion rate, all that. So it's like probably around what, 50 something bucks for shipping and all that. So, you know, it's not, I would rather pay $150 more for a 3090 Ti than $2,500 for a 3090. So I don't know who's more foolish, the people who bought a 3090 for $2,600 or the stores that have 3090s for $2,500 and $2,600. You know, like, look at this. The Zotac 3090 Amp Extreme Hollow for $2,900. Like, what? Why would anybody buy that when they can just go here and buy that and, you know, save like $200? So I think anybody who buys a 3090 right now for over $2,500, like say you get the 3090 from Best Buy, the 3090 FE, that's $2,050. Okay, as a better value proposition maybe, and we're talking about one overpriced card compared to another. So don't get me wrong, I'm not saying there's any good value in either of these. You know, you're kind of foolish either way, unless you absolutely need the 24 gigabytes of RAM, which you probably don't. But again, 12 gigabytes of RAM, which is the next step down, is all kind of on the edge. So I will say, NVIDIA, it's a pretty bad job on your part going from like 10 gigabytes to 12 gigabytes to 24 gigabytes. That's pretty dumb. All right, so we're just gonna have that aside. Like, really, NVIDIA next gen, please have like a 16 gigabyte one. And if you would have had a 16 gigabyte 3080, that would have been like absolutely spectacular. There would have been not a lot of like 10 gigabyte ones are now kind of getting limited, especially if you're gaming at like 1440p or 4K. You're gonna have trouble with 10 gigs of VRAM. So, and even 12 is kind of hitting the limit in some games as well. So it's almost like 24 gigs is like, if you want something that's going to last you another year and a half at like 4K, you probably have to go there, when, you know, AMD with the 6800 XT even, and 6900 XT, which granted, that's a good one for number 7. But we'll just go with that, you know, 12 gigs of VRAM is, especially if you're at higher resolutions, like if you're gaming at 1080p, 12 gigs is plenty. 10 gigs is even plenty, probably. So, but if you're doing like 4K and or ultra wide 1440p, like 3440 by 1440, you're going to be starting to run into trouble with 10 and 12, even 12 in some cases. And if you're sort of hitting that now with some games, as more games come out, it'll be probably worse because devs are going to be taking advantage of the higher level of the hardware out there, and it's going to be a real poop show. Let's just put it that way. So next, we'll stay here on this Canada Computers site, and we'll just say right here is number 7. Or so wait, we're gonna go back. Number 8 is people who bought 3090s and within the last month for over $2,500, because the 3090 Ti is there and it's $2,500. So the next step will be people who bought AIB 6900 XTs in the last week. Look at this. It's come down from $2,100 to $1,500. And you open your box and you're kind of past the price match policy, and suddenly you are in just all sorts of there's big price cuts, and again there's more price cuts kind of on the way. So as tariffs are kind of being dropped, there's been a lot of pricing changes. And pricing changes are going to continue, I believe. So yeah, if you bought a 6900 XT last month, that was an AIB, you're probably kicking yourself with the $600 you kind of burned. So that would be the next foolish thing. So new 6900 XT owners, unless you bought the 6900 XT from AMD Direct, then you're still laughing because that thing was like $1,300 after tax. Number 6, we are going to go with, man, I got to figure out what number 6 is going to be. I didn't think this far ahead. I'm going to say number 6 is people who said you have to buy a whole new PSU for these new cards, for new Hopper cards and anything that uses this new PCIe 5.0 connector. All right. Oh, they don't have it there. Yeah, we'll go back, because lo and behold, included in here, 16 pin, is you can just get one of these 16 pin to 3x8 pin cable adapters for your card, which is great. Because I will say, anybody who's like, I'm gonna have to buy a new power supply for the 16 pin connectors because it's not gonna work, it's just like the 12 pin connectors on the 3000 FEs. You just get another dongle and you can plug it in. Corsair has actually, this one here is EVGA, and they can plug directly into a card and then into, I believe this only works with EVGA power supplies. And you can do the same with Corsair has a cable as well. So yeah, if you are one of those people who is like, I'm gonna hold off on buying a power supply, or you idiots who bought a power supply, you're gonna be out of luck when these new cards come out because you can't use it with them. That is a pretty dumb thing. So yeah, I'll put that as a foolish thing, but maybe it's not really 6. That would be more like a further down. But we're rolling. I was hoping that there'd be more people, but there's absolutely nobody. So what you gonna do? You just gotta roll with it. So we're gonna go with I'm writing them down for the recap at the very end, which is where probably everybody's going to just skip and be like, all right, what are the top 10? Let's hear it. It's like those clickbait articles where it's like, you'll never believe what number 1 is. I do have number 1 in my head, but I have to work my way up to that. So, number 6, we will say new PSU Doomsdayers. Which maybe that makes me one for saying it at the very beginning, that if you bought an 850 watt PSU to future-proof, you're kind of SOL. But that's more based on power consumption than connectors. Although those indirectly kind of connect. So let's continue on our quest here. You know what we'll do? We'll go to Tom's Hardware. And we will see. Oh man, there's nothing here. I thought they'd have their new thing up. Oh well. We'll have to go to oh man. We'll touch on this one, because this is a pretty foolish one too. Oh, the 12900KS. We'll put that up there. This is basically the I want people to think I'm cool CPU. Let's start with power consumption and efficiency. At idle, 125 or 226 volts. Well, that's their overclocked one, but really, they're all pretty high at idle. Single thread, massive power consumption. Stress test. Wow. Okay, whole system. Alright, when they do whole system here. Is this... I gotta read their definitions here quickly. What's their whole system? What's their whole system definition? They don't really say. Oh, let's see temperatures. Oh, gosh. Man. 102 Celsius. That is a hot CPU, man. Sheesh. Like, that is... Wow. Stock, 92 Celsius. We'll go with the green ones. We'll just go stock stuff when we look at this here. Like, you're looking at 300 watts, Cinebench, 360. Wow. Those are some power-hungry CPUs. Oh, now this is dumb. I guess we'll have to go with the 720 to see any sort of difference. Yeah, it's all pinned. It's all GPU limited. Let's say maybe doing tech power up. Sorry, but doing your CPU tests with a 3080 in their testing rig. That's a pretty foolish thing too, unless you're doing like 360 p resolution. which I will say, anybody who complains about CPU tests at like super low resolutions, that's a really dumb thing to complain about. And I'm going to launch into a little rant about CPU testing and why those lower resolution tests are actually the most important tests when it comes to CPU testing. Indulge me, because I've got somebody watching, so please, single watcher, indulge me. I'm going to talk about why it's foolish to have a CPU test done with higher resolutions for gaming tests. Because something like this. You look at this right here, Shadow of the Tomb Raider, 1280 by 720. Realistically, it's really dumb to think that a 10900K is within fighting distance of a 12900KS. You've always been here, ASMR. You gotta breathe a little heavier, man, because I can't hear you. You need to turn up your ASMR mic. But so I'm gonna say this. We'll do this in tandem with the 12900KS. Or maybe, you know what, that will be number 4. But we'll finish the 12900KS, and then I'll launch into number 4, which is testing CPUs at higher resolutions. So, 12900KS. All right. Let's look at performance summary. Okay. Yes, it's top of the stack, top dog. You're looking at absolute maxed out 1.9% better than a 5950X. Overall. That's a pretty dumb thing to buy for that. Like 1.9% overall than a 5950X. And both of which are on like a dead socket. And I guess that's maybe coming more from this region of it. I don't know. But now there's actually more of a differential at these different resolutions. Let's go to the 720p, because this is more representative of actual like CPU, which one's better, which one's not. So you got 87.9% to 100%, let's say. So you got 12.1%. So 12.1% better. But let us go to CPU performance per dollar. All right, look at this. 5950X is okay. These charts, this performance per dollar, again, to sort of grab this and say, look how low it is. That's kind of a dumb thing, because like, look at this. The super high one is actually not that high above overall gaming wise. You're looking, but if you look at something like the 5900X, or even, obviously you don't want a 6700K, but something like the 5900X is 153% more, 53% more performance per dollar, because this starts at 100. So, let's see, what is the actual cost of this thing? I just assumed it was a ripoff. Actually, not as big a ripoff as I thought it was going to be. Let's just put it that way. Only 150 more. But, yeah. 5.5 gigahertz, that's pretty cool. Not going to lie. That's a pretty neat thing to have. But it's like a NOS sticker on your car. It's kind of dumb. And not really that helpful overall. And I bet you this thing alone. So say you have a cooling solution for your 12900K, unless you have like a triple fan, like 360 or 420 mil rad or custom loop, you're probably going to need to upgrade to one of those for the 12900KS, guaranteed, or else you're going to be pinging that thing. Because like when they were talking, like when you look at temperatures, right? This is with an NH-U14S, which is a pretty darn good air cooler. Let me just make sure it's the one I'm thinking of. It better not be like that dumb low profile one. No, it's a pretty decent one. Actually, it's not that great. It's not a double tower, is it? No, it's just a single tower, isn't it? Okay, that's... Now maybe you can get away with something like the D15. So if you got a D15 on there, because yeah, if you look at these temperatures, like absolutely ridiculous. At stock, you're hitting 92 Celsius under load with that cooler, which is just absolutely abysmal. I get uncomfortable anything over 85. So it's a hot one. Let's just put it that way. Let's just say under load, the 5950X is only 57 Celsius, and this is like 92. So take that as a warning that you will most likely have to increase your cooling capabilities versus any other CPU out there. And if you get this over 12900K, you're even dumber than somebody who just buys this outright. Because buying it outright maybe makes sense for 150 more. You know, you want to have like a top of the line type system, say, especially too, if you want to, say you want to get like, I don't know, you want to start testing GPUs. It's probably the best CPU out there for testing GPUs because it is the best one out there. It's just a horrible value. And if they say anything about it being a large price increase, overall gains are only minimal. Yeah, well, this is a dumb one. No CPU cooler included. Maybe Tech Power Up, you should be on the list for saying that as a con, because included CPU cooler would be absolutely ridiculous. Can you imagine how much this 12900KS would cost if they had a cooler in there that was capable of handling its ridiculous power output? I think it would be probably a big, Well, integrated graphics not good enough for serious gaming. Wow, is that even like something worth mentioning? Sorry, I'm in like super critical April Fool's mode here. Sorry, Tech Power Up. I actually really like Tech Power Up. Their site's actually quite good as far as like just having a buttload of data, and quite early on as well. But I digress, and I move on to testing CPUs at higher resolutions. And we're going to use this CPU as an example, where we look at game tests at 720p. So when you look at, say, a graph like this, Shadow of the Tomb Raider or Red Dead Redemption 2, at 720p, even at 720p, there's like so little difference from, I don't know, 11700KF, 11900, 10900, 12900KS, overclocked and all that. Like for crying out loud, the 12600K is right up in there, and it only is running at 4.9 gigahertz. So how is that, up in this mix? And this, to me, displays the problem with higher resolution. And you're going to look at that and you'll be like, what do you mean higher resolution? That's 720p, that's garbage, low resolution. And it's like, yes, it is low resolution and it is garbage, but you're probably limited by your 3080 because they're using a 3080 in this test. You're getting limited by your 3080 anywhere around 130 frames in game. So you're probably not even fully utilizing your CPU here. The 12900KS probably isn't even breaking a sweat here. And that's why this guy is right up in the mix here which, hey, that's a pretty good gaming CPU right there, the 12600K. I imagine that would be really high on that value list later on. But we'll go to the reason why. So I know people complain, they say nobody games at 720, so why are you putting graphs at 720 or 360 or 480p or whatever? If you don't have a graphics card in your test rig, that will never be restrictive of your CPU, then that argument stands. But the fact of the matter is that CPUs these days are so powerful still that they can outrun the GPUs even at lower resolutions. And so you have to keep lowering the resolution until the GPU can get ahead of the CPU as far as running the game. And again, it's not so much talking about it's more like simulating what if you had a future GPU in your rig. And that's the point of these lower resolutions testing in CPU tests, is that you test at a lower resolution to simulate having a much higher powered GPU in your rig. So, so if you're testing your 3090 at 4K, right? And you go down to I don't know, if you're going down to 1080p versus 4K, I just want to make sure I get my math right here. Pixels in a 4K display. 4K versus 1080p. Let's see. Composed of 2 million pixels, 8 million pixels. All right, so 4 times. So if you want to simulate gaming at 4K with a GPU that's 4 times more powerful than a 3090, then you test, if you want to, your system, you're planning on gaming at 4K, and you have, you say you have the 12900KS in your system, right? And you want to have that base system with the CPU and motherboard and RAM. You want to have that base system for the next 5 years, right? Well, in 2 to 3 years, there's probably going to be GPUs out there that are, I would say, roughly probably could be 4 times powerful than 3090 in the next 3 or so years. Maybe let's say 4 just to be safe. All right. So in the next 4 years, there's going to be GPUs that are 4 times more powerful than a 3090, and you want to test your system to see, hey, am I going to be able to just like upgrade to the next, the highest tier graphics card in 4 years, and know that it's not going to restrict my system if I'm gaming at 4K. Now, obviously, there's a lot of other factors in there, but a good way to simulate that with the here and now is to test at 1080p with a 3090. And the frame rate of 3090 running at 1080p will roughly give you what frame rate you're going to be able to do at 4K with a... not really, but whatever. I just making sure that your CPU, I want to make sure I don't say too many foolish things here to become number 1 on my list of April Fool things. But basically what I'm getting at is, if you want to simulate having a much more powerful CPU or GPU in your system while you're testing a CPU, you test at a lower resolution, which is more likely to pin your CPU than your GPU. And that's why it makes sense, if you want to think about future performance of your system with a newer generation or newer generation, 2 generations from now graphics card, you look at the testing data for a much lower resolution than what you want to game at now. So go back here and you look at what 720p for something that's you're getting, let's go to 1080. 1080 might be a better one here, because I was just talking about 1080 and like right around here you're starting to, again, you're hitting probably a bottleneck with your those are all the same card, or all the same processor. Here maybe is a better example. You're all sort of at 320 and you're sort of hitting your limit with your GPU there. Look at this. Those are all maxed out. The GPU is obviously the limiting factor here, not the actual CPUs in this test case here, because they're using a 3080 and Cyberpunk is just destroying it. So if you want to test simulating a much higher GPU, you test at a lower resolution to simulate that, and it gives you a much better idea of where your system will be in a few years with a higher powered GPU in it. So the complainers of 720p, I wish they actually went down to like 360p, where you could just see like this crazy variation between CPUs to actually see, which ones are real. Like, look at this. This is a nice example here, right? You can see how the 3900X is just absolutely garbage compared to your the 12900KS. Again, it's simulating. If you had like a super powerful card in there, if you're running a 3900X plus 2, you also have that indication that if your system is again, if you're only planning on gaming to at 4K at 176 frames per second, you're probably going to be fine in, a few years with a higher powered GPU in there running 4K for Battlefield, So it's a good indication of where you will be at a higher resolution in the future with a better GPU, because it eliminates that bottleneck from the GPU. Now, it's not a complete thing, because again, different resolutions probably stress the CPU differently as well. I'm not a scientist, so I don't know. You might have to talk to Dr. Ian Cuttress. He's a doctor. He knows because he's a doctor. But yeah. So, testing CPUs at higher resolution, people who complain about testing at 720p, you're on the foolish list. I'm sorry, but it's true. On to number 3. Number 3, I'm going to have to say, is Subaru owners. And I'm just checking to see if ASMR is watching, because he's a Subaru owner. And if he responds, then we'll know he's watching. Oh, I know what I'll do. For number 3, I'm struggling here. I can't think of a number 3. Number 3 dumb tech things. I think I know. Oh yeah. I know. We're not going to go anywhere on this. We're just going to keep it here for now. But number 3 is, I'm going to say that it might not be true, but FOMO miners buying rigs at scalp prices. So I'm going to say that is a solid number 3. If you're a FOMO miner and you're buying a scalp rig right now, you are number 3 on the list, because mining profitability is all right. Buying a GPU to mine with. Let me clarify here. If you're buying a rig, a mining rig at a scalp price right now, you are a solid number 3 on this list. If you're buying a GPU with the intent to mine with it, and you're buying it from like a store for retail, MSRP, you're not buying from like one of those like crazy third-party sellers that are like trying to sell it for double, I would say you're not on the list. But if you're a FOMO miner buying a scalped rig, you are definitely a solid number 3 on the list. All right. We're getting there. We're getting there. Number 2, if you are a scalper and you are still buying GPUs to scalp, I have to say you are probably a solid number 2 on the list. Yeah, if you're scalping GPUs, number 1, stop. That's dumb. But even like from somebody who doesn't care, like obviously I care, and I think it's really dumb and it's really just, you're just hurting people for your own benefit as a scalper. And there's serious, for me, there's serious moral implications, but I'm not going to try and get all high and mighty on you if you're a scalper. But if you are a scalper or thinking of becoming a scalper right now and you're still buying GPUs, I have to say you are probably a solid number 2 on the April Fool's list here. Because, yeah, I saw somebody who had a Kijiji ad, all right, for this card right here, for the 3090 Ti FDW Black Gaming. All right, they didn't even have the card on them yet. They had it shipping to them. They had just a picture of it, and they were listing it for $8,000. And it's like, okay, number 1, that's stupid. Number 2, I really hope that was a joke, because if it was a joke, that's a funny joke. But actually trying to scalp this card right here, it's in stock. Anybody can buy it. Like, you're not special. You didn't get some rare item now. Cards are not rare items so much anymore. Like, you go here and you go online from Canada Computers, and there are cards here that you can buy for cheap. You can get a 1660 Ti for $400, which again, that's not that cheap, but that's a lot cheaper than scalpers were selling it for. You can get some of these are actually, half decent. That's a no. But like, the cards are there and they're available, and they are like, they're way cheaper than scalpers are scalping them for, and they're available. You can just buy them here online. There's even like places that are allowing you to buy 2 at a time now. They're not limiting it anymore because, again, stuff's sitting on shelves, and there's stock in stores. So if you are buying cards to scalp, you are very dumb right now, because that is a dumb thing to be doing with your money. You will not be getting your money back. I am quite certain of that, because who's going to buy from you, especially when they have to forfeit their warranty in a lot of cases. They also have to pay more money to you. You're not really providing any benefit to them by having it, when they can just order it online and get it shipped. So I highly recommend, if you are a scalper or like somebody thinking about being a scalper and like buying GPUs now that you can get them because you heard from so-and-so that they're making money scalping, don't do it. It's really dumb right now. Just even like if I was trying to like legit help you, you're gonna wreck your credit. Let's just put it that way. So don't scalp, number one, and number two, definitely don't start scalping because you will lose. And if you are, guess what? And you think I'm, just dumb for saying it, you're number two on the list. A solid number two. Maybe a soft number two. I don't know. Maybe a two flush number two. But either way, you're number two on the April Fool's list. And now before we get to the final one. All right. I'm gonna let some people know. That we're gonna go through the whole list. All right, first, before we hit number one. All right. So, the list right here, the semi-impromptu list that I made tonight. We're gonna go with number 10. People who future-proofed with an 850 watt power supply. Especially with these new gen cards coming, that might not be enough even for the mid-range. Number 9, the brainiac at EVGA who thought it would be a good idea to patent the E-Leash. It's a solid number 9. That might actually deserve a higher spot. Number 8, people who recently bought a 3090 for more than what a 3090 Ti costs. New. Number 7, people who bought a 6900 XT in the last 4 weeks before the drops that have happened recently in pricing. Number 6, the people who said that you're going to need a new power supply unit for the new hopper cards because of the connector. If it's because of the power consumption, I agree, but if you said it's because of the power connector, that's a pretty dumb reason to say you're going to need a new power supply. Number 5, the 12900 KS. That is a foolish thing. Tons of power, very limited benefit, a lot more money. You're basically going to have to go with like a custom loop if you want it to cool that thing down because it is a furnace. Number 4, complaining about testing CPUs at low resolution. That is a dumb complaint, and for me, that's a number 4 on the list because lower resolution eliminates the bottleneck of the GPU and the testing rig and actually gives you a much better picture of the proper limitations of the CPU. So if you complain about CPUs being tested at like 720p or lower, you're kind of on the list. I'm sorry, but that's where you are. Number 3, FOMO buyers of scalped mining rigs. All right, if you bought a mining rig recently for a ridiculous scalped price, if you're thinking about buying one for a ridiculous scalped price, if you saw an article on Huffington Post about mining and you think you want to get into it and you're willing to pay anything to get into it, you are a solid number 3 on the list. Number 2, scalpers who are still buying cards to scalp. You are a solid number 2 on this list. All right. And you are forever number 2 in my books. And number 1, drum roll, please. And by drum roll, please, I mean, I'm going to drink some of my beer and then I'll tell you. The number 1 April Fools this 2022, I'm going to have to go to Tom's Hardware right here, is the holdouts for Intel Arc GPUs. Yeah, coming summer 2022. Their slogan should be too little, too late. Because my take on this is that these are going to be the most disappointing thing from Intel since, oh man, let's just say this is going to be the most disappointing release since Raj Kaduri's last release, which was Vega. All right. Anybody who thinks that there's going to be something wonderful from this, I think, are going to be sorely disappointed. Yeah, this is going to be just an utter disappointment. Yeah, limited edition GPU teased for summer 2022. Guess what? The only thing that's going to be limited is the supply of this. All right? And maybe the performance is also going to be limited. So you're going to have limited supply and limited performance, and that is going to be what makes this the limited edition. All right? This is going to be the absolute worst, most disappointing thing ever. Like, I don't know what's with this picture here. This thing looks like it's like melting and full of dust. I don't know. Is that what it's supposed to be? But yeah, this is like literally like if Intel released this like 2 months ago, even with like hot garbage drivers, it would have sold. And it would have sold like hotcakes because people would have been like, we're going to mine with this thing and it's another GPU we can mine with. It would have been a great success. But, you know, from what we've seen from leaks, is it's like 3070 performance, right? Which is great. You know, like, and yeah, sure. It's great to have another mid-tier card in the mix. But I guarantee you, by the time this thing actually sees proper supply in the market, you are already going to have NVIDIA 4000 series. You're going to already have AMD 7000 series out and in numbers. And they are going to probably destroy this thing. Like the 4070 is going to probably make this thing look absolutely shameful. And it's going to be sad. And for all of you guys that are super excited about it, I'm sorry, but you're number one on the list. Never forget Vega. All right? That is my advice. Yeah, limited demand as well. You're right. Yeah, limited edition, limited performance, limited supply, and limited demand. And probably sky-high pricing. Like, they will probably have to sell this at like probably like 40. It'll be like 40-50 level at, you know, this card. It's going to be just an absolute disappointment. And it's like, I don't know. Really, this shouldn't have been published 2 days ago. This should have been published today. And because this is going to be the biggest April Fool's joke for hardware enthusiasts out there. It's going to be a classic too little too late. It's going to be a Vega launch all over again, in my opinion. Where, you know, who knows? I think Intel's going to, this limited edition GPU, they're going to probably have a summer event probably planned. And this is how I see this summer event happening. Yeah, short Bintel stock. Exactly. Don't short them. I have Intel stock. And I'm still saying this. But like, I'm just so mad at them for this card. And it's like, it's going to be just like Vega. All right. The Vega GPUs, okay, they were, you know, you remember, does anybody remember like the Vega launch? Like how the, how that, not the Vega launch, but like the Vega announcement, like, you know, I think was the Vega launch was about what, half, the Vega event was like what, like half a year into the Pascal, like maybe 6 months after the 1080 launched from NVIDIA. And, you know, and like, I think we had like what, a year or two of the most powerful GPU from AMD was like still the Fury X, and like even then the 980 Ti was like slightly better than it in most areas, if not all. And yeah, you went to Vega launch and all you got is this lousy t-shirt. Exactly. They had this big ramp up, like Nvidia was just killing it in the top end with like no competition whatsoever. And, everybody's like, come on, come on AMD, like the AMD had like, this join the resistance, viral ad going on, and, and oh, you gotta, we're gonna, we care about gamers and we care about, this and that. And it came to a point where it's like they're there and they have the launch and like everybody's so excited, and Raj Kaduri is up there and he's like, yeah, we're we've got some really, spicy details for you guys here, and and everybody's thinking like, there's going to be like a couple slides of like, these are some performance metrics from like our like early testing and this and that. And it's like our big reveal for you is the new Vega cards are called Vega, and that's it. They're called Vega. Isn't that cool? and you can hear just like the disappointment in the room. The room was just like dead quiet, and I have no idea who in the world thought that announcement would get anything but like a dead quiet filled with like just dread and disappointment of we're gonna have to wait a few more years before we see anything. And then he's like, but I still have a spicy surprise for all of you who are here in attendance. I've got this free, and I promise I remember somebody in the crowd like shouts out, free GPU. I'm almost certain I heard somebody say that, but like everybody like in like the live stream chat was just like, free GPU, free GPU, free GPU. And he's like, have this free t-shirt with the Vega logo on it. Isn't that great, guys? And like, oh, the disappointment was so strong, and I think there was a lot of AMD supporter heartbreak after that. I think it was just, yeah, it was really bad. Let's just put it that way. And I have a feeling that this is going to be exactly like that all over again. So yeah, it was such a joke. And this is going to be, I think, exactly that. After that, I didn't trust a single thing that Raj Kaduri ever said again about anything GPU related, any promises or expectations. And this actually will be, I think, okay, I hope it's good, but I don't hold any hope that it's like, I'm not placing any stock in it being good. And I have to say that if Raj Kaduri cannot pull something out that's competitive and good and solid here, it might be the end of him in the industry. It might be like, buddy, just retire and hang up your coat. You're done. Because with AMD, there were some excuses, right? He didn't have the funding, and he probably didn't have a lot of freedom. In the sense he kind of backed himself into the GCN corner, where basically all he was doing was iterations of GCN, and that was it. And I imagine this ARC GPU is going to be a variation kind of GCN. So I think if he can't pull something out here, he'll be done in the industry, because there's no excuse with Intel, because he's like the head of it. He's got probably a buttload. He's probably got more funding for this GPU venture than like AMD has for like everything in their stack for R&D. So there's no money limitations, and as a result, I don't think there's any reason why there would be any sort of talent shortage or any excuse for him in this. Like, they're using TSMC for it, so there's no like process limitations as well, which is a classic excuse in Intel. But if this isn't a solid product, which I don't think it is, because again, every indication seems to point that it's going to be a 3070 level card, and that I don't think is going to be enough. It's going to be too little, too late. And again, if this is limited in number, it's just going to be like we not only couldn't make a good GPU, we couldn't make a lot of them. So sorry for taking up space at TSMC that would have otherwise been used for new NVIDIA GPUs and new AMD GPUs. So in a sense, it could actually hurt supply more than help. So I'm hoping it's good. I'm hoping I'm wrong, but I am not placing any stock in the success of this card and the launch of this card. And so I think anybody who is hopeful and expecting big things and big change in the market as a result of this, I have to put you at number one, and I'm sorry, but it's going to be too little, too late, and I don't think it's going to be. I don't think it's going to be anything more than a big, huge April Fool's joke. To be honest, it would have been great if they would have announced the release of this on April 1st, and then everybody would have taken it for what it is. But yeah, that's it. That's all I've got. Unless we've got some honorable mentions. Anybody in the chat have any honorable mentions for April Fool's items? Anything about in the tech sphere? I don't want to get into any Hollywood news or anything like that, because I think anybody who takes Hollywood news seriously is also perhaps deserving to be on that list. But what do you think, Fruit of Palm, ASMR? Any other watchers that are out there lurking, watching, waiting, commiserating? Any thoughts on April Fools? Any good April Fools events, articles that you saw? I didn't see too many really good articles. I did see an EVGA Gamer Pants. Yes. Let's go to the EVGA Gamer Pants. These will be considered. What? Where's the Gamer Pants, man? Images. Here we go. Oh yeah. Obviously it's going to be on the Twitters, huh? EVGA Gamer Pants. EVGA is proud to announce the GP1 Gamer Pants, an exclusive first look on today's stream. See, I've got some problems with these Gamer Pants. Number one, the awkward placement of the streaming control here for this XR1 Pro box here. It's probably really awkward to adjust that. It's nice to have the cooler here, though. Been working all day. Didn't see any April Fool's things. Just the regular Fool's things at your job. I don't know if I like the power supply down here. And also, why'd they go with just like, normal sweatpants? I do like the antenna coming out of the knee. It's pretty good. RGB, that's actually quite critical as far as any sort of fashion these days. If you don't have RGB, it's basically not fashionable. So, I wonder if Jacob Freeman, if he was the one who decided we need to patent this cable. They should have put a 3090 Ti in the crotch area. Exactly. Or maybe just like inside of the pants, like the profile of one. Like, what you call it? What's that? What's that biopic with the rock band? Oh, shoot. What is it called? It's the rock band one. Goes up to 11. want to say, who is it? Who is it? Help me out, guys. Help me out. What's that movie called when it's the where it's that band? I have to look it up. Goes up to 11. Who says that? Spinal Tap. That's the one. There we go. Yeah, you have the 3090 Ti there, like Spinal Tap. Yeah. Yeah, those gamer pants was pretty cool. I'll have to say that's a pretty good one from EVGA. Was there any on I know these guys sometimes they'll put in a good NVIDIA announces the Heat Force crypto mining smart heaters. There you go. This is a good one. I have to say, these are probably the best articles on WCCF Tech, is their April 1st articles. It's probably the only good articles on there. No offense. But that is pretty great, I have to say. The Heat Force Mark 1. Yeah, I guess that's going to wrap it up, though, for tonight. I just want to thank everybody for tuning in. Moore's Law is Dead had a credible source. For April Fool's. I don't think so. Moore's Law is Dead never has a credible source. That would be actually pretty funny. YouTube. See, I can look it up because he won't pollute my stream if I look him up on here. Oh yeah, here you go. GDDR7. Insane TDPs needed to compete with RDNA 3. This guy just, I don't know. He's a special person. Let's just put it that way. His face irritates me. I don't know why. His face just, I don't know. He's like, I just make stuff up and I talk about it, and I'm really mad when I talk about it. And I was like, he's got a good shtick going, though. I gotta say, I don't take anything that he says. I put him on the same level as Raj Kaduri as far as like my trust of them and what they say. Really, GDDR7 prototypes in November. Yeah, no way. He's talking out of his butt, as per usual. Everybody knows that there's going to be no GDDR7 on these new ones. Everybody's going to use HBM3. You know? Only a dummy would use GDDR7. But yeah. I think it's gonna wrap it up for tonight. Thanks guys though for hanging out, for joining in. I appreciate it, as always. I think we'll probably call it a night, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Like, share, and subscribe, and hit the notification bell if you want to know without me just sending a chat out to you that I'm streaming. And if you're new to the channel and you actually made it through this and you enjoyed it, that's awesome and really weird. You might be the new #1 on the list of April Fools, but I love you and I appreciate it. Thank you for listening, And like, subscribe, share. I don't know why you would share 1 hour stream of me talking, but you can if you feel like it. And have a good night. Peace.